Hi, Carice.
Hi, Frank.
It's really lovely to see you again, even if only virtually. We were together in Brussels, about 2 months ago now, I
Hmm.
guess, for this event that we called Together for Palestine. You were kind enough to join us and read a beautiful text. So yeah, it's really good to see you again.
And you. I mean, that was a very special night, and I got to meet so many amazing people. I guess that's the upside of this whole fucking tragedy, to meet beautiful, beautiful human beings. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll come back to it. I think you're right. This is one of the upsides, you know. Um, but I'm really interested, and we spoke, a bit before, and I was telling you that I wanted to do some interviews with artists, so filmmakers, actors, actresses, musicians that have been speaking out for Gaza and for Palestine over the last 18 months. And it sounds crazy to say 18 months because I don't think anyone could have predicted that this horror would have lasted that long.
Hmm.
But you are one of these people, and I'm just really interested in people's journey and people's stories because it helps understand also what touches people and what sort of makes people realize, for example, that Palestine is a lot less complicated than we've been taught to believe for so many years. But I was wondering, like, to start, like, it seems like you were introduced yourself to arts and films um, at a very young age, right? By your parents.
Yes, well, mostly my dad, because he was a musicologist and also like a silent film freak. Not a freak, but he was not a know-it-all because he actually knew everything about it. But he took me to Russian silent films that took 4 hours when I was six. Or Abel Gance's Napoleon, which is a 5 hour long masterpiece. When I was very small. So there's been a lot of music and image in my life, in my young life, and a lot of nonverbal art. That's also why I'm very attracted by non-speaking roles because I think there's so much you can do with your eyes and your body language. Yeah.
And in regards to politics, I mean, I was gonna ask, like, was your family political at all? But being political means so many different things.
Yes, I
But
know. My
yeah,
my dad was a real character. Like it was a bit of a one-way conversation. He was a speaker, and my grandfather was a vicar, and of course a speaker. And I think my dad, as a response to that, was also a speaker, but the total opposite. So he was very. I was raised atheist, and you know, um, but he was a good speaker. He was very entertaining, and he had a lot to say. But from my memory, he raised me very, very anti-German, for example, because of the war. Um, and my dad went so far that on a holiday, he would he would hide his money in a book about the Holocaust so that the Germans wouldn't steal his money. Like that's how far it went. And he wrote a lot of books about um, the Second World War, in fact, and about the resistance and about music in Theresienstadt, the camp. Um, so the Second World War was very present in his life. Music, war, and dogs, basically. Yeah. So
yeah.
politics. I mean, he had a very strong opinion about everything. Um, and I don't want to say racist, but he was, yeah, again, very black and white. Yeah.
And how did this translate in regards to the family and maybe you? Because I know you have a sister, I think
Mhm.
so, and you as kids, were you the kind of parents that is trying to sort of push through his ideas uh, into you, or was it kind of leaving you experience your,
Mm, he was pretty pushy. He was pretty. vicary. No, not that vicars are pushy, but he was a very strong believer in his own ideas, and wasn't afraid to introduce us to all that. You know, he did things like this is so typical of my dad. There's a Dutch NSB, a Nazi, a Dutch
Yeah.
a Dutch national Nazi, a sort of famous guy who died at some point, and then his wife still got money from, in my dad's opinion, from his Nazi past, and his heritage was what she lived of. And when she died, no, when he died, he sent her this widow. He sent her a telegram from hell, and he just said, "It's very hot here, honey. I hope you come here too soon." Like that kind of stuff he did. So very outspoken, a kind of a sense of humor, but very, very, clear on things. Yeah.
Okay. So that's and it's interesting as well that he really liked showing you silent films, but he was himself a big talker.
Yes. Yes, but a big talker with a small heart, or with a big heart, as you could say as well. Like he was very, very emotional person. Not from the outside so much, but the way he spoke about music, and the love. He would go to a library in Russia and find some piece of music under the dust, and he would undust it and then let a whole orchestra revive it. And so he was a true ideologist. He didn't care about money or any material things. And I think also that's why at first I think my sister and I sort of went against it. We just wanted to go shopping because we're like, I don't need another Shostakovich record. I just want a doll. Like so I think at first I just wanted to be far away from that. And I feel more and more, and my friends also sort of joke about me sometimes. They're also the way I carry my body, I guess. They're just like, oh, that's Theodore. Here he is. He's here. Yeah. I'm getting much more rebellious and sort of more outspoken with the years.
Okay, and that's very interesting because I remember, and I think we've all experienced this. Older people, including your parents or your uncles, I remember them, when you're like 18 and 20 and you're quite radical in your view of life, in your view of money, in your view of power. People telling you, "Oh, you'll see when you'll be old." They, in their heads, you tend to mellow in a way when you're old, and you tend to become more conservative. I know, for me as well, it's been the complete opposite. I've become more and more radical in the good sense, addressing problems at their roots. So it's interesting to hear you say that. And also it's interesting because like older people than you are always going to be older than you, right? So even now I'm going to be 48. My stepdad, who is 70, keeps telling me, "You'll see when you're old." I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, but I was wondering, so you saying like you've become more in a way political as you grew older. You were involved in like political campaigns and actions before Palestine and Gaza, right? Or was it?
Not really.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, I guess it all started with the climate crisis. Not I mean, the climate crisis has been going on for many years, as we know. But I went to an Extinction Rebellion evening, and saw a talk by this silence philosopher, a Dutch guy, Chris Julien, and he just really calmly explained to me how we got there, how we got here, where we are now. And I just was confronted with the lack of trying to get away of that, because, and even though I'm not unsensitive, or I was interested, and would sometimes post something about the climate, but I sort of didn't want to know. And also I just became a mother. So that's just, completely far away land. And that night it was just like the curtains were opened for me. And I got such a shock. And I realized how naive I had been living all these years, and how, I mean, I'm a very empathetic person, but also how self-centered and how small my bubble was. And um, I saw, apart from the fact that we're all going to deal with this climate crisis, that the global south, of course, is dealing with it already. And the injustice of that really kicked in then, only then. And then, of course, when you start pulling on the thread of injustice, then it all opens up to you. Like, there's no way that you can then unseal that. And then, of course, 7th of October happened. And I don't know if you want to go back to how I really got so involved in Gaza.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Yeah. So I did Steve McQueen, the director, made a film called The Occupied City about Amsterdam during the World War II. And it's a beautiful document. It's 4.5 hours, I think it's 4.5 hours, with a voiceover that I did, where I basically continuously talk about everything you see, and everybody who lived, every family who lived in a certain house, and where they end up, and where they were killed, and in what concentration camp they were brought to, and which was a very emotional experience, and where I had to, a few times I just couldn't read anymore, because it was always when there were kids involved, I just broke down. Anyway, I just had done that summer, and then the film came out somewhere early November, I think, by memory, 2023. And I pretty quickly signed a petition that came from the movie industry here, tiny industry, against genocide. Without even thinking, I signed it. And that's when there was a bit of controversy, because people were like, how can she be the voice of this document about, the Holocaust, and she's also signing this genocide petition, or the Stop the Genocide petition. And I was so shaken by the fact that was not understood in a sort of very naive way. I was like, but this the same heart is being touched here. I don't understand where is the difference? And of course, there was a lot of pressure on me, and there were a lot of people were not happy, so to speak. And I felt a lot of pressure. And I also, because it was so new to me, I felt like, oh, maybe, genocide is a very strong word, and I don't want to hurt anyone, like, and Frank was my youth idol. I've read the diary 3 times. I've done the audio book. I've done a documentary for the Auschwitz Museum. I've done so much in that sort of, in that realm, that I felt like that world is so sacred. I don't want to hurt anybody. And it's not my people. It's not, so I got really sort of scared. And then I thought, there's so much emotion here. I need to get to the bottom of this. I cannot say anything anymore about this unless I really know the heart of it. And this is where my self-diagnosed ADHD comes in handy, because I can really go into a rabbit hole. And then I dove in and I couldn't let go. Yeah. And then it turns out that it's not, as an outsider, because I'm not Palestinian and I'm not Jewish, it's not so hard to see what is really going on there. And I think, when I was a child, I always was very triggered by small injustices, like cheating in a game. It makes me furious if someone doesn't tell the truth. So that is triggered in me constantly. And yeah, so that's how my sort of, my activism in that regard started.
It's very interesting, right? Because I think you said like you in a way, went into a rabbit hole and wanted, I guess, to know everything and read everything to try to understand
Hmm.
what was happening in Palestine. And did you feel once you came to the conclusion that, okay, I think I know, did you feel that knowing made it then impossible for you not to speak
Yes,
out against it?
100%. Yeah, it, there was just no way back. And also just I because you get so emotionally attached to this. I it felt like I needed to check in every day. How is it going there? Like I opened my phone to see how are they doing? How are they doing? And then you can't. I mean, of course, a lot of people have told me many, many times, just put your phone down, just, take a break from it, which I found very, very hard. Sometimes I had to, and I think altogether, I think maybe 3 days all, in total, I have not watched or followed the news. But I felt like I was also sort of letting them down by not witnessing, by not bearing witness.
I was saying it's very hard because I think on a personal level, in terms of your health and your well-being, at some point you might want to shut down and switch off the phone and stop watching at horrors, because
Mhm.
at a personal level you can't do really much about it. And I think that's what's been so hard over the last 18 months, is that you're trying your best but it doesn't have any impact, pretty much any direct impact on the ground. But then you switch off your phone and you kind of feel guilty about it, right? Or
Oh yeah, I mean, you're in the supermarkets, you're like, breaking down. In the beginning, it was really, um, yeah, it was breaking down a lot. Um, and it was also scary to notice how sort of a thick skin, not a thick skin, because it still hurts me to the core, but that if I would step away for a few days and then go back in, it would hit me even harder. Um, and and you start making contact with people there, so it's uh, and yeah, the other thing that has been really hard, and I'm sure you've had similar experiences where your surroundings, that you feel, I felt so alone in the beginning, and still do sometimes. But there have been moments where I wanted to just, I think I've made 10 videos for all my friends that were quiet, where I was like losing it. Um, and that's been a side effect, obviously, not to make it about us, but it is a shift. It's a huge shift of where to feel safe with that, because there's been people that ridiculed me, or have completely ignored me, or have said things that have really hurt me. Um, People that are really close to me. Um, and I just think I just wanted to feel like I just want everyone to know at least what's going on. And then whatever you do with that, that's not up to me. That's your responsibility to take action or to speak out. I have begged people to do that, but it works the other way. People get sick of me, and it is probably not up to me. If by now they haven't done anything or haven't spoken up, what else am I supposed to do? So that is probably not, I can't do that, but I just at least want people to know, to face it, to look the beast in the eye, and then then it's their responsibility what to do with that. So that's also
yeah.
why I keep posting, to educate. And of course, people that are on the other side of the spectrum will think the opposite, obviously.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more about the sort of feeling alone feeling. And I think that's what they want to make us feel, like really alone. And I think that's why it's being together, like during the event in Brussels, demonstrating is crucial, because you then realize that actually you're not alone. There
Yeah.
are many of us.
Yeah.
But and the second part of your of what you were saying is, we are in a moment, I think, of extreme clarity, and people have a choice. You're right. It's like, once and we know that you know that you know. If you decide not to speak against it, it's your choice, and we can in a way respect this. But then it's about being able to look to look at yourself in the mirror every morning, and potentially to respond to this question that will come in 10, 15, 20 years by your children or your your grandchildren. What were you doing during the Gaza genocide?
Mm-hmm.
You've got to just live with it, but it's your choice, right?
But it's such a disillusional experience, because people that you think would do that are not doing it, and you just have to come to terms with that. And it's a real mind gymnastic, to keep your friendship and still have to accept that they are not where you are, or not speaking out the way you want them to. And especially I've felt, in the beginning, there's also, I'm sure you feel the same, that there's days where I'm really all about connection and about softness, and and it's also how I try to see Zionism. I try to see it as people that are caught up in a cult, and I'm trying to be not empathetic, but I'm trying to understand it, because no one is born evil. There's, of course, indoctrination and family pressure, and God knows what is keeping them in that narrative. And that's also, I think, why it's good to follow people that. There's this lady, I don't know if you follow her, Elena Potek, I think her name is.
I don't think I know her. Yeah.
Okay, well, she was a Zionist on the 7th of October, maybe a week or two, a week or two after that still, and then made a huge turn and is now completely 360
Okay,
degrees.
I know who you mean now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And I have so much respect for that, because I can understand that, because it's not my story. I can understand that requires such trauma and there's such, mental strength. So I try to, have moments where I really try to go in their shoes, because I want to
Yeah.
understand it. And then there's moments that I just am sick of it, and I don't have any patience, and I get so angry. So that there's all these sort of degrees of anger and openness, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. In a way, if we, and I say we, if whatever you want to call us, the left, the progressive movement, if we want to build a better world, in a way, we should show empathy towards the other, and sometimes even radical empathy,
yeah,
up to a point, I guess. And
yeah,
I think that's what you're saying. And with Gaza, it's been a journey as well. Me as well. The first few weeks, months, you're trying to talk to people that it can be your neighbors, your parents, it can be people online, and you try to tell them, look, in a way, educate yourself. There are sort of images and realities when it comes to Palestine, and look at the reality and stuff. But once they know, it then becomes a lot harder to continue sort of, being in a way super, show super empathy with them, being in a way that they shrink. It's like, now you've got a brain, you're an adult. Don't
yeah,
expect me to accompany you, for too long, because I'm suffering. Because we've all, I mean, that was my next question. Like, do you think that Gaza, when I say Gaza, the genocide, has changed you as a person, kind of forever?
yeah, yeah, because it has opened a worldview that I wasn't aware of, and a system that I wasn't aware of, and also it started a little bit with the climate, with the climate movement, that it's so interconnected. All these terrible systems, they're also interconnected. And Gaza is, as Misan Harriman said the other day, it's the top of the card deck. And
Yeah, I mean,
give
yeah.
me a moral compass that I didn't even know that I had. And to live with that and to live by that is actually a not a gift, because that sounds very weird, but it's a very strong compass. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Palestinians, in particular, have been telling us this for ages, that Palestine and Gaza is, in a way, a door and a key to understanding the world as it is, but also potentially to work towards a fairer and a better world, So Palestine as this key to understand everything else. And we've seen it in the last 18 months, the way fascism is so clear, the way capitalism, as is crumbling in a way. The idea is, and I think Gaza and Palestine have been a key to sort of open this. So, but I was wondering as well, because you talked about, facing repercussions, at least at the beginning when you signed the genocide letter. Did Gaza change also the way you look at the industry you are working in?
Well, kind of, because I sort of never really, in my naive mind, the arts are about justice and about telling the truth and showing, the gray areas, and to explore humanity. And yeah, I've been shocked about the fact that my peers are so quiet, and that of course tells you a lot, that this is not something that you're supposed to talk about. And as Misan also said, if you speak about all the other atrocities like Congo and Sudan and Yemen, and there's so much more, that will not get you in trouble. This will. And but still, I can't shut my mouth. Yeah.
We're going back in a way, and maybe we'll end with this. We're going back to this choice, right? We all have at this moment.
Yeah.
And I think, I've been trying to, again, like talking about empathy and radical empathy. I think people, and that's when you're like kind of in survival mode, as long as it doesn't touch you, you kind of go, I'm still okay, I'm still okay, I'm still okay, right? But right now, I feel it's getting closer and closer and closer. I'm talking about fascism. I'm talking about the fact that white people that had felt until now kind of protected are now being arrested just simply because they ask for an end of the massacre. The US, they're being kidnapped in the streets.
Yeah.
So it's getting closer, and the question we'll all have to answer as well at one point, when it's going to come to us, and we're going to expect solidarity from our peers, the fact that we didn't do anything when it came to Gaza might haunt us at this moment, So I think there's this choice. When you have clarity and moral clarity, what do you do with it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have been one of the most outspoken people over the last 18 months. And I mean, you're not alone. You're saying like, obviously there should have been a lot more people, but you're not alone. But I think, I don't know what you think. Like, do you think people, in a way, when you talk about people's legacy, do you think people in 50 years will, do you think like really famous actors will be reminded of because they were famous actors, or because of the political stance they
I
took
don't
at
know.
some
I mean,
point.
in my head, the latter, but I mean, I do like the fact that the whole celebrity culture has also fallen off its pedestal in my vision, and also for myself. You know, I just, yeah, I don't find this profession sacred at all. Or, you know, of course, there's beauty in art, and of course, my profession matters, and you know, we can tell stories, and it has a power. But what is that power worth if real life is not bringing you to? I just that I cannot rhyme that in my head. Um, and but the fact that and but then again, you know, you get on the other side of the algorithm, and there's still so much worshipping and bullshit. So I don't know if that's our bubble thinking that at some point they will be remembered for not speaking up. I don't know. I don't know. I've I've been really passive aggressively sometimes posted on people's platforms. I couldn't help myself. And then, you know, it's a constant struggle of how elegant am I in this, you know? And sometimes again, like I post 25 times a day, and then sometimes I'm like, it's all about, you know, what would love do? What would love do? What would love do, you know? And I also remember one time a famous actress who posted something about like a year and a half ago. It was, or yeah, a bit more than a year ago. It was a quiet January, or it was a chill January, and I just had to answer like, was it? I just, and I know that's, you know, I don't want to get into that sort of online commenting world, but I just sometimes I couldn't keep my frustrations with me. And you know, the thing that also is really, again, like, I just, where is the eagerness to learn at this point? Don't you want to know? Don't you want to know what's going on? And again, like, I sound a bit hypocritical because before 3 years ago, I was in my own bubble. I didn't really read the newspapers. Politics is too complicated, you know. Um, but I feel like at this point, it's at your doorstep. And the selective activism, you know, people that then, if it's about queer rights, they all of a sudden they get up, a friend of mine, and you're like, look, don't you see that it's all connected? Why? Ugh. Yeah.
Yeah, I obviously get the frustration, and I think that's what Gaza has done. Unfortunately, comes with hundreds of thousands of people dead, including an incredibly high number of children, and it comes. But I think Gaza has. I really do think there'll be a before and after the Gaza genocide, and you know, it's, as you were saying at the beginning of the conversation, it's opened people's mind and people's eyes, sorry, about what's
Mhm.
happening in Palestine, and then millions of people have changed, and I think, yeah, they need to see that it's completely interconnected to everything else that is happening, you know, and but thank you, Carice, for being one of these really powerful voice for the people, you know, and for humanity. So yeah,
I mean, I can't.
thanks again.
It's not like I can't stop. I can't stop.
I mean, we cannot stop until it ends, and I don't know what it is, but you know, we know the Gaza genocide won't be the end of suffering and horrible stuff happening around the world, but we don't really have much of a choice, I think, once we know, anyway.
No, I know. And is there something else I just want to say? Um, yeah, I keep thinking about that clip where Edward Said says something about the acknowledgement. You know, that the healing for also for small things, small trauma, small little things, the acknowledgement, that's where it starts. And if that's not even given, the Nakba is not even acknowledged. So how? Yeah, it's that again. That yeah, I don't know. I don't have the answers either. But that's a video I come back to often.
Yeah, well, the Edward Said video when he
Yeah,
talks
also
about, yeah,
just him. I find him so
yeah,
powerful and so clear. And there's so many clear people. There's so many beautiful, smart, amazing people telling the truth. And that's the thing that I worry about a little bit, that by now, people who have not spoken up or who have not been engaged will cramp even more because they're so late and they have to get on board at some point. So of course it's like, as we say, a cat in the now is like a cat who is in the corner will make weird jumps, you know?
again, I completely agree. But I think, again, it's better late than never,
Yes,
right?
of course. We invite them in. We don't
Of course.
pull them out. We invite them in. That's what I keep telling myself.
Yeah.
Um,
And,
yeah.
people are on a journey, through life, and every person's got a different journey. For some people, it's very linear. And like yourself, once you felt like you knew about Gaza, there was no way back and no way you were going to shut up. Some other people, for one reason or another, just find it harder. But I think they might get there one day, and we need to welcome them, with us. So
Every time someone
yeah,
speaks out, I'm like, oh, thank God.
yeah,
Or
hallelujah,
when
yeah,
Hannah Einbender the other day, that great speech.
oh yeah.
That's like a gift. You're like, thank God. Yeah.
Thanks, Carice.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks. See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.